Hi everyone, this is By Siju.S.Bhaskar. I welcome you all to the CBC online classes. Today we are going to discuss the second chapter of class 10 economics. The name of the chapter is the sectors of economy. An economy of a country is best understood by the study of its components or its sectors. The sectors of an economy or the components of an economy can be classified into many based on different criteria. In this chapter, we have to study about the different classification of the economy and how much is the contribution of these sectors into the national product, the GDP of the country, and how much is the contribution of these sectors to the employment, and all we are going to discuss in this chapter. There are many activities happening around us every minute, even as we speak. Look at me, I am doing the job of a teacher. And my job, where you will place my job, in which sector you will place my job, and what is the contribution of money from my side, and where you will place the money from my contribution. In all these, you have to classify. How you understand this one? By the classification. By the classification of economic activities into different sectors, into different components, the main important classification, the one way to solve or one way to sort out this problem is to classify the economic activities into group. This group is known as sectors. These sectors, the details of these sectors we are going to study in this chapter. The classification of economic activities into different sectors, that is the sectors of the economy. Sectors of the economy we can classify into three based on three criteria. We are taking three criteria for the classification of sectors. First one is economic activity. Based on economic activity. The second one based on the nature of organization. And third one based on ownership. So these are mainly three categories or three criteria used to classify the sectors. In this chapter, we have to study mainly three classification. The classification of sectors based on economic activity, based on organization, and based on ownership. Based on economic activities, there are three sectors. Primary sector, second one secondary sector, and third one tertiary sector. And based on organization, there are two sectors. One is organized, the first one is organized, and the second one is unorganized sector. And based on ownership, two classification, public sector and private sector. We are going to study the detail of these classification in this chapter. What are the classification and how we can classify the economic activities into primary, secondary and tertiary. How the person's work can be classified into organized and unorganized. How the ownership, a person's economic activity based on ownership can be classified into public and private. Let's have a look at the first classification of sectors based on economic activity, and it's primary, secondary and tertiary. The primary sector means the activities which produce goods by exploiting natural resources. When we produce goods by the exploitation of natural resources, and that activities and that sector is known as primary sector. The main activity in this sector is agriculture, hence it is also known as agriculture sector. Example, agriculture, mining, fishing, and all these are primary sector activities. Look at this, fishing. We are exploiting sea, and from sea we are getting sea products, and this is primary sector activity. And mining, we are exploiting land. From land we are excavating products. That means these are the activities. By exploiting natural resources, we are getting the products. These activities are known as primary sector activities. Let's come to the secondary sector activity. Secondary sector activities means the activities which convert primary sector products. The primary sector products we will change and convert into other products by way of manufacturing. This word is very important. By way of manufacturing. By way of manufacturing, through the process of manufacturing, primary sector products we are changing into other products. And this is known as what? Secondary sector activities. Here the main activity is industry. That's why it is also known as industrial sector. Example, construction, manufacturing, etc. and all will comes under the secondary sector. And the tertiary sector, these are the activities which help primary and secondary sector for their development. And all the activities which help the primary and secondary sector for the development, these activities are known as tertiary sector. The main aim of this sector is service. That's why the sector is also known as service sector. Example, transportation, communication, education, health, insurance, banking, and all will come under tertiary sector because these activities are helping the primary and secondary sector for their development. There is an interdependence or interconnection or interrelation between these three sectors, primary, secondary and tertiary. Look at this example. See, the production or the agriculture of sugarcane. The production of sugarcane is a primary sector activity because we are exploiting the natural resources and from land we are producing sugarcane. And when the sugarcane comes to a factory, and in the factory through way of manufacturing, by way of manufacturing, we are converting the sugarcane into sugar. And for selling these products to the market, we need transportation and communication, like many facilities we need. We need transportation, communication, like many things we need. That means this primary sector activity is connected with this secondary sector activity, and this is connected with this transportation and the communication. That means in all these three sectors are interdependent and interconnected. Another classification is the classification of sectors into organized and unorganized sectors, and this is based on the nature of organization. Look at here. This is the classification. In organized sector, there is a perfect system, and most of these and not most of all are following the rules and regulations of government. Job safety is there, and all facilities are available to the workers. Example, government jobs, the IT professionals, and all these are working in organized sector. Everything there is a system. But unorganized sector, they are not following a perfect system. Many are not following the rules and regulations of the government. No job safety, and all facilities are not available to the workers. Example, daily workers like a construction, the people who are working in the construction field, the machines and all these, they are not getting all the facilities. Job safety also is not there. Job security is not there. So this is a classification of sectors into organized and unorganized based on organization. Another classification of sector is the classification of sectors into public and private, and it's based on ownership. See, public category or the public sector means economic activities are owned and operated by government. That means all economic activities will be under the control of government. It may be state government, central government, but all economic activities will be under the control of government. This is known as public sector. For example, Indian Railway is an example of public sector. In all economic activities, here in this Indian Railway belongs to government only. There is no private participation. But private sector, very simple. Economic activities are owned and operated by private individuals or institutions. It may be under the ownership of private individuals or institutions. This is known as private sector. For example, Reliance, it is under the ownership of Mukesh Ambani, Tata, and all these are the examples of private sector. This is a classification of sector based on ownership. So we have studied the different sectors of the economy: primary, secondary, tertiary, organized and unorganized, private and public, and all we studied. My question, how do we count the total production from these sectors? And how can we calculate the total goods and services from these sectors? By the calculation of goods and services from these sectors, then only we can calculate the national income and the total production and the contribution of these sectors to the national economy, all can be evaluated. So how can we count, or how can we calculate the total goods and services, total production from these sectors? For the production of for the calculation of total goods and services, we are taking final goods and services. We are not taking intermediate goods, and we are avoiding intermediate goods because the value of intermediate goods are also included in the final goods. So intermediate goods, the value we are not taking into consideration when we calculate the total goods and services from these sectors. Final goods already we studied. The final goods means the goods and services finally used by the consumers. It's for the final consumption for the consumers. When we take or when we calculate the total final goods and services produced in a country during a given period of time from all these sectors like primary, secondary and tertiary, and that value of the final goods and services from these sectors, we will get GDP, gross domestic product. And when we take the value of final goods and services in the country, that means inside the country and outside the country, we will get national income. That means when we calculate total goods and services or total production, we are taking only the value of final goods and services. No need to calculate the value of intermediate goods and services. That's all for the first part of this chapter 2, economics of class 10. Sectors of the economy, and in our second part we will discuss the historical change of the sectors and what is the contribution of these sectors to total production and employment and types of employment and what are the policies adopted by the government for the rectification of this problem and for improving or creating employment opportunities in the country, and all we will discuss in our second part. Thank you all. Have a nice day.